Now, moving on to another issue this morning. Of course, we've got those new inflation numbers, 9.1%. Pretty excoriating numbers there, inching towards double-digit inflation. And I'm just wondering, I'm looking across at all of the parties in the United Kingdom, really. I'm not seeing a single plan to deal with the causes of inflation. You've announced multiple packages to deal with the consequences of inflation, handing out more money to people. What are your policies in order to deal with the causes of inflation?
I think there's some big, the causes of this inflation, it's global. You look at the US, Belgium, the Netherlands, similar levels of inflation. I think we need to address some of those causes. So, for example, stronger energy self-reliance. So the work we're doing on new nuclear and the renewable technologies will over time do that, strengthen that. I think we're talking in the context of our food strategy and farming, about making sure that we're less reliant on imports. I think it's broadly 50% UK food production comes from the UK, 30% from continental Europe, 20% from the rest of the world. We want to strengthen our diversification and our self-reliance. So those are some of the structural challenges. In relation to wider inflation, of course, the thing we've got to do now is not make the problem worse. So we know that inflation will come back next year, come back down, and what we just need is some wage restraint across the board to prevent a vicious cycle, which of course, if we gave in to the unions, would only hurt the very poorest, the most vulnerable and the lowest paid workers in our society, which is why it's important to take a firm line in relation to the industrial action that we've seen from the RMT union.
So is the government now agreeing with the Governor of the Bank of England, Andrew Bailey, who said not so long ago that people shouldn't ask for pay rises this year or big pay rises this year? At the time, the government said that was the wrong thing for him to say. Do you now agree with him?
Well, look, we want and we're focused on a high-wage economy, but the thing that will undermine the value of people's pay packet, the one that they actually receive, is if we don't get a grip on inflation over the next 12 months. And that's the thing that we're focused on in the here and now. And of course, it's, as I said, a global challenge because of the aftershocks of the pandemic, but also the Russian invasion of Ukraine. And I think in relation to, for example, the RMT dispute, there's a world of difference between a 3% increase and a 7% increase. And what we've got to do is just get that balance right. We understand the challenge that low-paid workers have got making ends meet, which is why we've got the universal credit, the national living wage, boosting their pay packets in a responsible way. But if we see wage inflation go up across the board, then inflation will stay higher for longer, and that will only undermine and undercut the wages and the pay of the lowest paid in our society.